Hello. Apparently, I can broadcast for up to 8 hours. So I hope you're comfortable. Good evening. What's going on, everybody? Um, it's Tuesday night. I just got back from my radio show. And I thought I would kind of do a second part to the radio show. Open new tab. Let's try this. Sorry, it looks like in the meantime, YouTube has up and changed some things again. My kind of homepage looks a little different when I go to try to see this video so I can do the comments. One more try here and let's see what happens. So tonight, Dead Air, every Tuesday night on 101.5 UMFM. The lovely folks at the University of Manitoba give me a chance to go on there and play my weirdo music. And it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it now a couple of years, I think, at this point, or at least it feels like a couple of years. And tonight was a focus on a record company, Graft. Because I've been kind of fixated, sorry, as I'm doing two things at once here, because I've been kind of fixated on cartoonist kayfabe, Ed Piskor and Jim Rugg. I've been going through, and now that I'm kind of really diving into the Eclipse Comics titles as well, I'm really just kind of digging through my bins. Had a look through a couple of boxes. I have a couple of boxes that are filled with kind of 80s and 90s stuff, let's say, small press and indie. So I've been looking through that sort of thing. Let's see here. Muted. Did I mute it? Yes, I did. Hey, Damien, you are here. How's it going? So it's been a lot of fun doing these dives into the into these boxes and just pulling out some random issues, things that I maybe haven't given that much attention to, or things that I haven't given any attention to. And one of the things that I pulled out was from Iconographics, Skin Graft. Sorry, as I'm trying to set up my pages here. Let's do this. Let's do that. So Iconographics was a kind of sub-label from Caliber, and I think they had a couple of kind of sub-labels, one that was focused more on kind of superheroes, that sort of thing, from what I understand. And then this Iconographics was focused more on kind of oddball and not quite new creators, but comedy, a little bit of slice of life kind of publications. Oh, Larasa, good morning. How are you? So I sat down with these last night. There was only two issues, issue 1 and issue 2. I sat down with these last night and gave them a really good read, and they're a lot better than what I remember. So I've been familiar with the record label Skin Graft for a long, long time. Some of my favorite bands have put releases out on Skin Graft, US Maple being kind of the top tier for me, Mount Shasta, Dennis and Kimball Trio, the list goes on and on and on. Some really, really great music based out of Chicago. I think they started in 1991 is when they put out their first release, which was, I think, a Dazzling Killman and some band called Mother's Day, like a split 7-inch. So the thing that they did with that, they've been doing comics. So Mark Fisher and Rob Sayers, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. They've been doing comics together since kind of high school in the 80s. They self-published a bunch of books as well. I think they said 5 kind of Skin Graft comics that they did themselves. Kind of 200 to 500 copies is the number that they say in this kind of history here. They kind of continued on with that and did some kind of small press, did some mini comics, that sort of thing. Mark Fisher, I believe, is the individual who kind of let's do a record label. They kind of come up from kind of punk rock and things. So they knew some bands from what I understand and just decided to explore the idea of having a Skin Graft record label as well, which they could then include comic books with the records themselves. So just kind of them and their friends could do little comic strips, and they would get included with especially the 7-inch EPs. I don't know too much about full lengths. A lot of the stuff that I have from them are 7 inches. So those are the ones that have the comic books. The couple of LPs that I have, I'm trying to think. I don't even think they have any of their art attached to them. They kind of kept those things separate. So anyway, I figured to kind of accompany the radio show tonight, I'd do kind of this part 2 of actually having a look at stuff. So with UMFM, the shows don't upload. I think it takes about 24 hours. So actually less than 24 hours, like 12 hours or something, because usually when I get up in the morning, it is uploaded. So if you are interested to hear kind of a good hour solid of music that they released, umfm.com. If you go to programming, Tuesday nights at 11 p.m., you'll find Dead Air, and you can stream them online, or I believe you can download them as well too. So if this interests you and you want to hear something, go for it. Have a listen to that show. But the thing, I think for the most part, when I dealt with when I was listening to the records, it was definitely in a phase where I wasn't really hardcore into comics. That was a bit of a phase where I was more focused on music. And I do remember I've always looked at the comics with the records. They didn't really resonate with me as much. It was just some kind of visuals to have along with the comic. The record. And I thought it was a great idea. But I don't remember the stories themselves working that well. So my memory is that they were always a bit disjointed and more kind of stream of consciousness and maybe just art that looked kind of like a comic book. I really want to revisit them because after reading these 2 issues, I have to say I was really pleasantly surprised with the content in there, even as much as them kind of making fun of these styles of comics as well too. There's a really great story. I think it might be in this issue here. There's a really great story of, I believe it's a Mark Fisher piece where he's talking about people that do autobiographical comics and how they always end up dealing with masturbation and these things that are supposed to kind of draw you into time with the artist and, hey, look, I'm really bearing my soul, something that's really embarrassing or whatever. So he kind of pokes fun at that, and then meanwhile in the story himself ends up doing kind of similar things that he's making fun of. And I just found the short stories really work. They've got a few. Yeah, there we go. So it is Mark Fisher, and he even steals the hate logo from Peter Bagg's Hate. So it's called Why I Hate Self-Portrait Autobiographical Shit. And it's just kind of a piece of him venting, doing some of the same things that he's venting about. They have a couple of other artists in here as well. Paul Nietzsche, who I see appears in some of the records as well too. Let's see if we can find some Rob Sayers. I believe, here we go. Yeah. So Rob's art is a lot different, a lot kind of loose and sloppy, dense pages, all the same. Some kind of, there's some realism there, but it's kind of Hunter Thompson type of realism where we're going to take these premises, but then I'm going to just expand on them and have kind of crazy art accompanying these kind of basic stories, just to give it that next dimension. Each of them have created their own characters as well too. Gumball Head the Cat is one of the big ones. My glasses are not close. Sirius Brown is the name of the other character. Um, there's a Sirius Brown right here. That's that character. There's kind of a private eye, and this particular story was pretty great as well. And Sirius Brown is another character that really makes a bunch of appearances throughout the records as well. So both books are, I believe, 48 pages, and just really dense with some really unique stories. Very black and white explosion-ish indie comics, but there really is kind of a punk rock edge to it with just this sloppiness. And Mark Fisher, out of the two of them, I do really enjoy Rob Sayers' stuff, but Mark Fisher, he's really got some unique talent just for the way, this is Mark Fisher again here on this side, just for the kind of variations to his style that he's able to achieve for the most part. And it's not a slam against Rob Sayers by any stretch. It's just his style is very samey throughout the whole thing. Bicycle Shop, my art style. So it's really, really great. I had a look on my comic shop. I believe I had a look on my comic shop, and they were available there as well too. But I would suggest, I don't know, if you're into any of the stuff that I kind of talk about on my channel, I would say go for it, have a look. So I thought just for the last half, we'd have a look at some of their records, some of the 7 inches, and just kind of go through some of the art style. Yes, very inky art style in that last one, like really almost like the pen was leaking kind of thing. So one of the things that stood out to me and my friends, me and my brother specifically, but then friends of ours too, this was kind of our first exposure to Skin Graft as a record label. So one of my favorite bands is Shellac. Steve Albini, he used to be in a band called Big Black. He does a lot of producing and engineering now. He has his own company, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but he's produced or he's engineered a lot of albums, including some Nirvana stuff, Jesus Lizard, a whole bunch of bands. So in our kind of hunt for Shellac, we heard that Shellac did a version of the AC/DC song Jailbreak, hunted it down, and it turns out it's from Skin Graft. So from what I can remember, this may be the very first thing that I ever heard from Skin Graft. And on this one, it kind of introduced us to a couple of bands that we knew a little bit about already. So it's Shellac, Biggin, Breeze Glass, and US Maple on here. And they had a series of, I believe, 6 different 7 inches. And they were all AC/DC cover songs the entire time. Really, some that were just absolutely incredible, and some that were a little bit of a miss, let's say. But again, it was, yeah, certain people do worship Albini. He's a hell of a guy. I mean, the thing with Albini is that his drums, there's some really great YouTube videos actually with him talking about kind of his recording style and his engineering style. And there was one I watched just recently, and he talks about how he shows the process of, I think it's a series, Let's See Your Junk or something like that, that Electro Harmonics, there's a company that does guitar pedals. They have this series, Show Us Your Junk. They've talked to like Devo, they talked to Steve Albini, they talked to a bunch of different artists, and they go to their space and they get a little tour. They talk to somebody from Sonic Youth as well in one of the episodes. So the Albini episode is a good kind of half-hour long, and he talks about his recording style, especially for drums, because he has a very distinct style, and he really goes into detail about microphones. And that was always a thing with Shellac Records, even, that he would talk about what microphones were used for particular recordings. I knew a guy who was happy his girlfriend had slept with Albini. That's hilarious. So he just has a very unique style, and Shellac is a hell of a band. I've been lucky enough to see them live, and they really just have a very distinct sound. And I think that's really what Albini's known for. And a lot of the bands that he produced are bands that are really near and dear to me, including people like PJ Harvey. Actually, I think he did PJ Harvey's first album as well. But it really, to me, stands out, and it's a lot of bands in that kind of those genres that really resonate with me. So his name was always around growing up. So anyway, so this is the interiors of this first set, and I'm really excited to kind of go back through these. I've listened to these many times, but most of the time when I listen to them, I'll listen to them digitally. So I'm looking forward to throwing these records on and reading some of the comic strips as well. This first one is on a real kind of heavy, glossy stock. So that's sides 1 to 4. And then we have sides 5 and 6, Palace contributions, so the Palace brothers, and then Zenigiva, which was a Japanese band that again Steve Albini produced, or engineered, I guess. So there's a look at that. Some of the interiors of that one there. But yeah, I mean, seeing stuff like this, it's kind of very loose sketches, and that's kind of the thing that stood out to me from these, like in my memory when I think back about these comics, kind of non-linear stories where it just seemed nothing wrong with a chance to display your art. It didn't kind of, in my memory, it didn't sit as a comic strip. But I think that might just have been my thinking at the time, because now looking back at these again, I think it's going to resonate a lot differently than it did. And the last one that I have of this AC/DC covers is sides 7 to 10. So Mount Shasta, Dennis and Kimball Trio, Zeke Sheck, and Killdozer. The Killdozer track on this one is killer. I think it's A Whole Lot of Rosie, I believe. And again, just a look at the couple of pages there. Another then we'll kind of fire through some, because I want to show you a couple of pieces of art from some of the musicians themselves within the 7-inch. Another in the list of incredible cover songs. This is a band called Shorty. The singer from U.S. Maple, and I believe the guitarist, played in this band as well. It was the band they had before forming U.S. Maple. This one has a cover of Van Halen's Hot for Teacher. Unbelievable. It's really a highlight. Yeah, here we go. So Mark Shippey is on guitar, and Mark Shippey does the art, and I love his style. When I was picking up these again to have a look, this art style really jumps out at me, and something that's really stuck with me. So I'm going to have to do a search on Mr. Shippey to see if he's done anything else. But there's even his lettering. I really like. Really amazing style. Almost like bubble lettering the whole time, which is pretty intense. And then who do we have in the next half? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, there we go. Some more text and art there. That one really reminds me of what's his name. Oh yeah, no, that's Shippey again. Yeah. So there you go, and there's the last pages there. Amazing 7-inch, seriously. Have a listen to Shorty, Hot for Teacher. You won't regret it. There was another one here with some of the musicians themselves. So Mount Shasta, Nodule and Sleeping Fugly played a track off of this on the show tonight. There's Gumball Head the Cat there, and on the front here. This one, the stories are written by the guitarist / vocalist John Forbes. And again, we get some Mark Fisher art. Again, his style, it feels like you can really see his style developing comparing to that first comic when we looked at some of his art in there, there's a definite jump ahead here. Can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Not Chester Brown, not Seth, Joe Matt. Joe Matt. A very kind of Joe Matt feel. And then this, another artist that jumped out, GRZECA. Really, really nice, bold style there. Huge panels. Fantastic. This is amazing, but I have to get up early, so good night for now. Thanks very much for tuning in, Damien. I do appreciate it. I know it's late even for me, but I'm on this train of thought, so I'm just going to go with it. There we go. And then kind of finally, just to wrap it up here, what else did I have to show you here? I think those were the ones that jumped out. Everything else was from artists that you've seen so far, except for this one. Hey, look at that. No name here on this one. Art, it just says respective artists, and then I don't see any name attached. But there you go. So this is from a band called Mama Tick. It's Horse Doctor and I'm Okay With Me. Skin Graft Records number 6. So this will be from 1992, 1993. So like 2 years into their label being up and off the ground. Here we go. Here's some more Mark Fisher. Again, with a bit of a different style. Mark Fisher here on this side. I think that about does it, everybody. Thanks very much. Yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. And like I said, if you're interested in hearing some of this stuff, definitely go to umfm.com and tomorrow at some point and have a listen through the archives. Yeah, it's amazing what I give a lot of credit to just everybody on YouTube for sure, and just my love of this medium. But it's amazing what a really, really good YouTube channel can do for you. I really do feel re-energized with comics and stuff, and especially with some of the stuff that I've picked from the cheap bins. The stuff that's out there reminds me of Daniel Clow's art. Love it. Yeah, there's and that's a really good point there, GPAP. Thanks for tuning in. A lot of this really feels in that kind of wheelhouse to me. Those kind of Peter Bagg, Daniel Clow's, that era of kind of Fantagraphics artists. Again, this is all kind of early to mid 90s, this stuff. So it really fits in with that kind of group of people. Just this kind of diving back into Eclipse Comics, still reading, and really looking forward to, and just kind of excited again about making some videos talking about books a little more detail. Greetings from tomorrow. Wow, I hope there's flying cars, morning coffee, and comic talk. Sadly, I'm off to work in 20 minutes. Thanks very much, Lazy Duchap. Haven't seen you for a while. Thanks for tuning in. Just that nice to get re-energized by some of this stuff again, and just reading these artists and just really absorbing myself in it. And I give full credit to Jim Rugg and Ed Piskor, because it's a hell of a channel, and there's always something interesting to learn off of it. So I can't recommend it enough. I think they've broken the 5,000 subscriber mark, so definitely tune in. And then one last thing I guess we'll talk about is hit up my shop by my office, and he's had a sale going for a little while now, 50% off on most back issues. I think under $10 you get 50% off, like if a book is under $10. So I found some really dirt cheap stuff, and I'm amazed by some of the stuff that I still find in shops that I visit on kind of a regular basis. I really find that my digging really goes to what my mindset is that day. When I'm on the unexpected kick there that I was looking for DC's Unexpected, that's what I zeroed in on and managed to find unexpected books everywhere I went. Right now, I'm on this kick of trying to find these kind of indie books and Eclipse titles and Pacific titles, etc. And I'm just finding them at every turn, it feels like. This is one that jumped out at me. I don't find many Vortex comics out there in the wild in general, and when I do find them, I haven't found this title. So this is Vortex number 12, and when I opened it up, it's from 1991, I believe is what it said. Oh, it's 1991. What am I talking about? I'm sorry. 1984. I'm still thinking the 90s. 1984. When I had a look through it, surprise, surprise, we have a little bit of research, a Sam Keith comic in here, and it's dated 1984. And if I remember correctly from when I was looking, 1984 on a website that I found anyway, that was listed as kind of his first work. So this would have been one of the very first published pieces. I don't know. I'd have to look a little more closely and do a little more digging. I don't believe this is his first published work, but it's one of the first ones anyway. But his style, even at this stage, really jumps out. I watched a couple of videos of Kayfabe. I love the passion they have for comics and making them. Yeah, and that's, I think, a big thing. It just oozes out of the screen. They really do love it. They really are steeped in it. I love, even though I don't do comics myself, I love that they give these kind of insights into their techniques and that sort of thing. I really, it's great just seeing people really talk about something they love and not always focusing on things that they hate. And again, we don't need to go down that road of conversation. We all are on the same page. I think from people who watch my channel are generally on the same page of staying away from the toxic bullshit that's out there. Here's another look at a story in Vortex number 12. So surprised to see how many there were. I think there was 14 or 15 issues of this. First one that I've seen. And speaking of early work, one of the other ones I found, and I think it might be a double, but I so rarely see this that I picked it up anyway. My man Ted McKeever with issue number 1 of his series Transit, which I believe was only 4-issue miniseries. I've got the collected work over there that Image put out in hardcover many years back. But I love Ted McKeever. His art, yes, that's coming there, La Raza. That's going to be coming in a minute here. I just have a small stack to show off, but those are in here for sure. Ted McKeever is a guy that's always resonated with me, and if you go way back in my archives, there's a Ted McKeever video where I just kind of talk about him and his series Metropole, which is the one that really stood out to me. Plastic Forks was early work of his too. And then his most recent stuff, which is years ago now, was a Pencilhead that I think Image put out, and it's more kind of about his time in comics. But this is Transit. It all just kind of ties in nicely to the skin graft stuff we were looking at before, because again, this is that kind of same style. Yeah, Metropole it really, to this day, it sticks with me. I haven't read it in a long time, but when I was picking up Metropole, when it was coming out there, it just had me. It had me so hardcore. I think I had stumbled onto Plastic Forks first, or maybe I can't remember if it was Metropole first and then Plastic Forks. But when I discovered McKeever, I was hooked, man. He just had some really amazing stuff. So anyway, that was really great to find that, the first issue of Transit. And something that kind of took me by surprise, I couldn't remember if I had it, but it was Renegade Press. I know that I have a 3D Ms. Tree already, but it's not one that Renegade put out, so I don't know how this one escaped me, but it is escaping me no more because here it is in my hand. So when Ms. Tree was doing the Renegade stuff, they had a 3D issue as well. as the later Eclipse series. There was a 3D issue there from them as well too. So this was a really sweet find. It's in a bit of a, it's been loved, that's for sure, but really, really glad to have this. A really nice surprise flipping through the bin and seeing this jump out at me. Damien and Rasa were both telling me that there's going to be Mystery getting reissued, or I guess collected. I don't know if it's soft covers or hard covers, but was it Image, Rasa, that was doing the reissues, or was it IDW, or I don't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, so the other one that I kind of did a double take because I couldn't believe that I saw it in the bins. 3 of the 4-issue miniseries from Mobius, Airtight Garage, that was put out by Epic Comics. And these are kind of, for me anyway, these were almost, I don't know, man. I was beginning to wonder if they ever actually existed, because I have yet, there's people that I've heard talk about it, but I've never actually seen the single issues. So I just couldn't fucking believe it. So we had 3 of the issues, and with the discount, they came to like $2.50 a piece, which is a hell of a steal. But again, it's one of those books, he had them priced at $5 a piece. Even if there wasn't a sale, I would have jumped on these at $5 a piece, because I've never seen these out there in the wild before. So that's issue number 1 of 4. Issue number 2 of 4. And then issue number 4 of 4. Incredible covers. I hope that color is kind of resonating on the screen, because the colors are beautiful on this. We'll just kind of have a flip through. I mean, we've all seen Mobius's work before, but hey. Oh, Titan Comics. Thanks very much, Rossi. Yeah, so Mystery is going to be released by Titan Comics. That's right, because it's part of that hard case crime stuff, isn't it? So there's the interiors. We all know Mobius, and they look less loved. They sure as hell do. They're in amazing shape. They're 64-page special. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I honestly, I kind of took them out of the bin, and I put them back, and I kind of looked over my shoulder and pulled them back out of the bin, and just kind of puzzled. And when it registered that, yes, you're seeing exactly what you're seeing, they went into my stack. Hypnotic Eyes, hello. Any chance you can show your 8-ball collection sometime? Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely talk about it'd be great to do a Dan Clowes maybe kind of episode, but yeah, absolutely. I can talk about the 8-ball. I don't have the whole run, but there's so much good stuff in there, especially like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron. Again, another story from back then that just stuck with me to this day. And then a couple of Eclipse books that I've never seen before. So this first one is Portia Prins of the Glamazons, with a pretty great cover. It's a hell of a drawing. It's a hell of a woman on there. With an introduction by Richard and Wendy Peeney. So apparently this was 1977 2-issue series, something like that, sometime in the mid to late 70s anyway. And then these are new stories with the same character. I only found the single issue, I think, when I did a quick look online, or when I was adding it on CLZ. Did it have 8 issues total? But either way, I've never seen this one before. So as Dr. Monkeybot has said, it just seems like with some of these companies, it almost seems endless. And I'm always amazed when I find something else from these companies that I've never seen before. And on that same note, Robin Hood. I think the Eclipse did a couple of Robin Hood miniseries. This is book 1 of 3 for this particular one. And the interiors, we'll have a quick look at the interiors of this one. I didn't mind them when I had a flip through. Some painted, there you go. Oh, kind of jumping there a little bit, pausing. Hopefully it hasn't frozen up on your end there. Who do we got here? So, writer is Valerie Jones. Layouts by Tim Truman. Watercolors by Christopher Schenk, Schenck. Letterer Willie Schubert, and of course editor Catherine Ironwood. Yeah, it just says Robin Hood Book 1 of a 3-part series. Like I said, I believe there was 2. Mystery will be released in July. Thank you very much, Rasa. So this is July 1991 is what we're looking at with this one there. It turned out to be a double. I wasn't 100% certain, so I grabbed it anyway because it was cheap. But having a look at my database, P. Craig Russell's Night Music #3. I do already have this, but hey, what the hell? It doesn't hurt having a couple of issues of P. Craig Russell's art because it's just so damn amazing. Another kind of surprise find. I've got a couple. I think there was only 4 issues in this Pacific Presents series. I imagine there was only 4 because when the company, it was maybe published near when the company folded. So this is Pacific Presents #1 with The Rocketeer by Dave Stevens and Steve Ditko, The Missing Man. Really, really nice cover there. I think I'm only missing issue #2 of this little series here. We'll have a look. There you go. There's a nice Rocketeer back cover there. Dave Stevens. Eclipse, always a good find. Been buying new Fantagraphics anthologies now. Are hit and miss, but cheap and fun overall. Yeah, I only managed to pick up one of those now, and it just didn't stick with me. I think I had a similar reaction when I started with Island as well too. I don't know, man. There's just something about it. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. I just can't. But there was something about it that just didn't really work for me. The issue that I got of now, I don't remember which issue number it was, but the cover is, I bought it mostly for the cover, to be honest, and to try out a new anthology. But other than the cover, nothing else really stands out to me. So there's some look at Ditko on the interiors here. How many issues is now up to? And then here we go with some, yeah. So even though this is the first issue of Pacific Presents, when we open it up to the Rocketeer story by Dave Stevens, it says Chapter 3. So I haven't read this blurb here, but I'm sure it's going to explain why we're starting on Chapter 3 or where it's continuing from. This one's a little rough on the cover, some water damage, but again, that's fine by me. It's great to have these books. And that is that. Those are the books I picked up today. Stay tuned for another Eclipse. They're not handy. They're somewhere over here. I'm kind of starting in on #6 just came out. Great. Of now. I'm starting in on the first Axle Press Button and Laser Eraser that Eclipse put out, which is kind of reprints of stuff that was released in the UK, I think from Warrior. And a really nice kind of side note in the first issue on it, he kind of talks about the history of the characters and where they came from, and there's reference to an early iteration where Axel Press Button appears in kind of a comic strip about some other characters, and it was actually reprinted by Ripoff Press, Gilbert Shelton, Ripoff Press Comics, issue #6 or 8, I think it was 8. So I actually had that issue and read those little strips as well too. So that'll be a nice addition to the next Eclipse. I'm probably going to kind of start digging into the Scout series again. So we'll see kind of what gets covered. Maybe I'll pick another couple of really short single or 2-issue Eclipse titles. And hopefully in the next week or so, I can do another Eclipse video. Kind of stick around for those throughout the year. I think that's going to be the focus this year, reviewing comics and just talking about books as opposed to everything else. Going to try to limit myself to not just feel like just shooting a video all the time, just kind of limit it to something that maybe is a little more thought out from this point on, instead of winging it all the time. Thanks very much for tuning in. I really appreciate everybody commenting. It's always great to see you all. I hope you all have a good night or a good morning or a good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And as the K Fabers would say, read more comics, and we'll talk to you.